6 best things to do in Tianjin, China. Here is a challenge. Name one thing to do in Tianjin, China. Most people can't, and that is exactly the problem, because this city has a stretch of the Great Wall most tourists have never seen. A museum built from 10 tons of chocolate, a mountain so beautiful and an emperor visited 30 times, and a seafood market where your dinner is still alive when you point at it. 6 stops, 1 city. Let's go. Number 6. We are starting with a walk, but not just any walk. This might be the most visually disorienting city stroll in all of China, in the best way possible. Tianjin city center is one of those places that makes you stop and think, wait, where am I actually? Because in the space of a single afternoon, you'll go from looking at gleaming modern skyscrapers into standing in front of the century-old European villas without walking more than a few blocks. The city was a major international trading port in the 19th century, and every foreign power that settled here left their architectural fingerprint behind. The result is unlike anything else in China. Start Bohai River, the true heartbeat of Tianjin. The waterfront is lined with ornate European-inspired bridges that glow beautifully at night, and watching boats drift beneath them, you genuinely feel like you could be in a completely different country. Right at the water edge, you will spot the Tianjin Eye, a massive Ferris wheel mounted directly on the bridge, rotating slowly over the river. It's one of the most unusual Ferris wheels on the planet, and it frames the skyline in a way that is immediately iconic. From there, wander into the 5 great avenues without home. A network of leafy, quiet streets lined with thousands of historic villas in British, French, Italian, and German architectural styles. It feels like an open-air museum that nobody told you about. In the afternoon on the Asian Culture Street, where the energy completely flips, traditional food vendors, folk art, incense, calligraphy, street performers, this is all China. And loud, just minutes from those European boulevards. Tianjin is a city of beautiful contradictions, and that walk is how you feel all of them. Number 5. Okay, everybody knows the Great Wall, but I promise you, most people have never seen it like this. Huangyaguan, known as the Yellow Cliff Pass, named after the extraordinary golden light that flows these mountain peaks every single sunset, and the moment you see it, you understand exactly why. This stretch of the wall was first built over 1,400 years ago, serving as a critical fortress on the northern border. But what makes Huangyaguan genuinely fascinating isn't just the wall itself, it is the intelligence behind it. At the base of the mountain sits Bagu City, a labyrinth of streets deliberately designed in a maze formation, based on ancient Chinese military strategy, specifically built to disorient and trap enemy forces who managed to breach the outer defenses. Walking through it today, even knowing what you're looking for, it's disorienting. Imagine being a soldier trying to navigate under attack. Then you start climbing. The wall here doesn't gently slope up. It attacks the mountain ridgelines, rising and falling aggressively over the peaks, lined with unique circular watchtowers you won't find anywhere else on the wall. One of them, the Widow Tower, carries a story of sacrifice that looks still tell today. And if you are here at the right time of year, this section hosts one of the world's most extreme marathons. Runners tackling those legendary steep steps in full race conditions. Just watching the footage is exhausting. Huangyaguan is what the Great Wall looks like when no one's telling you to look at it. Number 4. Alright. We need a change of pace, and I don't think anything changes the pace quite like walking into a room where literally everything is made of chocolate. The Tianjin Chocolate Wonderland Museum sits right on Heping Road, in the heart of the city's most famous walking district, and is exactly as wild as it sounds. Artists have used nearly 10 tons of pure chocolate to sculpt an entire gallery of edible art, And we're not talking about the simple chocolate bars on a shelf. We're talking life-sized, painstakingly detailed recreations of Tianjin's most iconic landmarks, including a fully spinning replica of the Tianjin Eye Ferris wheel, built entirely from chocolate. There are mythological figures. There's one of China's most beloved folk heroes, rendered in rich dark and milk chocolate, popular anime character, enormous sweet sculptures of Tianjin's famous street snacks. The whole thing is simultaneously a museum, an art gallery, and a food experience. You can watch live chocolatiers crafting new pieces. You can take photos with sculptures. And yes, you can taste things, locally inspired chocolate treats made to take home. Is it the deepest cultural experience in Tianjin? No. Is it one of the most genuinely fun hours you will spend in any city in China? Absolutely yes. It is the sweetest detour you will make on this entire trip. Number 3. Now we go hunting. Right in the middle of Tianjin's old city stands the Drum Tower, a magnificent Ming Dynasty structure that's been keeping watch over this neighborhood for centuries. But here is what the travel guides often miss. The real action isn't inside the tower. It is in the streets surrounding it. The north and east lanes are lined with antique dealers, market stalls, and curio shops that turn the whole area into a treasure hunter's paradise. We're talking vintage jewelry, hand-painted, folk art, old coins from dynasties long gone, traditional calligraphy essays, ceramic figurines, lacquerware, eclectic chaos, beautiful jumble of Chinese history you can actually hold in your hands. Bargaining is completely expected here, part of the experience actually. The vendors enjoy the back and forth. Come in with a number, expect a counter, and walk away with something you couldn't find anywhere else. But here's the hidden tip, and this is the one locals don't advertise loudly. On Saturday mornings, the nearby Baimulu area hosts what is called a ghost market. This is a traditional informal flea market that starts before dawn and wraps up before most tourists are even awake. Early risers can dig through vintage vinyl records, Republican-era books and photographs, rare local relics, and things that look like they were pulled directly out of someone's grandmother's attic. Get there early. Bring cash. Don't ask too many questions about where things came from. Just enjoy. The Drum Tower neighborhood is a completely absorbing corner of Tianjin. Grab some street food from a vendor while you wander, and give yourself more time than you think you need. Number 2. Every great city has an escape hatch, a place you can go when the urban energy gets to be too much and you need to remember what the world looked like before concrete. For Tianjin, that place is Mount Panshan. Located in Jeju district, Panshan has been drawing travelers, poets, and emperors for centuries, and it has earned a legendary reputation as the premier mountain east of Beijing. That title was given lightly. What makes Panshan extraordinary is the way the scenery changes as you climb. The mountain is famous for its 3 wonders, and each layer of the ascent delivers something completely different. Down at the base, hidden springs and rushing water channels cut through the rocks. The sound of moving water is everywhere. As you climb into the middle elevation, the landscape shifts to something stranger and more dramatic. Enormous ancient pine trees growing directly out of cliff faces, their roots wrapped around bare rock, bent at the impossible angles by centuries of wind. They look like they belong in a painting, because they do. This exact scenery inspired Chinese landscape art for over 1,000 years. At the summit, the peaks break through the clouds and the views across the surrounding valleys are breathtaking. And running through all of it, ancient Buddhist pagodas, hidden temples tackled in the mountainside, stone pathways worn smooth by millions of pilgrims. Emperor Qianlong of Qing Dynasty visited this mountain over 30 times. He later wrote that had he known how beautiful Panshan was, he never would have chosen to settle in Jiangnan, the most celebrated scenic region in all of China. That's the kind of mountain we're talking about. Number 1. And we arrive at number 1. And if you have been patient, this is where it gets really good. Tianjin sits right on the coast of Bohai Sea. And what that means, in practical terms, is that the city has access to some of the freshest, most extraordinary seafood in all of the northern China, the kind where the gap between the ocean and your plate is measured in hours, not days. Forget the fancy restaurants. The real experience is out in Bohai New area, specifically the coastal neighborhoods of Tangu and the historic Beitang ancient town. Beitang has been supplying seafood to Chinese imperial courts since the Ming Dynasty. Think about that for a second. The emperors of China, people who could eat literally anything, specifically wanted seafood from here, and today, ducks are still lined with open-air stalls and waterfront restaurants where the seafood experience is as raw and immediate as it gets. Walk up to tanks, point at what you want, watch them pull it out alive, hand it to the cook, sit down, and that is the whole process. Mantis shrimp, a Tianjin specialty, split open, cooked to perfection. Bohai prawns, razor clams, still twitching. Purple crabs, steamed until their shells turn brilliant orange. If you are staying closer to the city center, the Nikkei district is own version of this energy. Hidden local spots where chefs pull fresh sea urchins and oysters straight from the water and steam them with garlic vermicelli right in front of you, or fold them into translucent, juicy dumplings that absolutely explode with flavor when you bite through the skin. Late night seafood barbecue on a plastic stool, surrounded by locals, smoke rising from the grilled coal bear, the smell of the sea. That's Tianjin at its most alive. No single experience of the city will tell you more about who Tianjin is and how it lives than this one. Tianjin is one of those cities that China's own travelers treat as a day trip from Beijing, and they are massively underselling it. The city deserves its own journey. If this has you planning a trip, drop your questions in the comments. I rate everything. And you want more hidden gems from China and beyond? Subscribe. There's a lot more coming. See you in the next one.